The nervous system has quite a few components to it, so we're going to start with the nervous tissue. What are the divisions, how are things structured, and how does it work? So we'll get into some physiology here as well. Let's start off here. You have the diagram showing you a glass of water. You're thirsty. All right, let's have a drink. But that simple thought process, think about how much actually goes into it. Your eyes visually see that glass of water. So that means, okay, the eyes must interpret, send the information to the brain. The brain then interprets what that is, glass of water. But at the same time, you then also have other parts of your brain that are thinking, hey, I'm actually thirsty. I should drink that. But then you can't just simply drink that with it sitting there. You have to somehow get that to your body, which means your brain's going to send out motor signals to the different muscles. Muscles of your torso, your arms, potentially your legs to walk to it. All those signals simply grab the glass of water and bring it to you. So really, it sounds very simple, but there's a very complex mechanism of sensory input and motor output that's going on between the different organs and systems and nerves of your body. So a few universal properties, things that can be kind of guaranteed across the entire nervous system. One is excitability. Your neurons, the parts that make up your neurons respond to stimuli, whether it be a visual stimuli, an auditory stimuli, an olfactory stimuli, a pressure sensation, pain, temperature, whatever. You have to excite the neuron, which then sends that signal back up to the brain or spinal cord. And that's where that conductivity comes in. You conduct that signal from your skin, for example. Conduct it up to your spinal cord or brain. Neurons, which make up the nerves, conduct these impulses, these action potentials. And secretion. Because it's usually not just one single neuron, the whole pathway. It has to then cause a synapse. Input, sensory, usually creates a synapse or more than one synapse in the central nervous system, spinal cord and brain, which means it ends at the axon terminals to another part of an actual neuron. This is the dendrite now. So you're forming a synapse. You're bringing the information in, but it can't transfer across that small little gap. So it's going to secrete a neurotransmitter. So the first neuron, a lot of times the one that receives the signal, is going to transmit this impulse, this action potential. It then secretes out of its axon terminals, the axon bulbs, this neurotransmitter. The neurotransmitter goes across a space, that's where the actual synapse is, into the dendrite or the actual cell body of the next neuron or gland, or for that matter, organ even. So you're trying to send this chemical messenger across a space. Secretion. So we have excitability, we then have conductivity, and we have secretion. Traits that go across the entire nervous system. So I've mentioned the term central nervous system already, CNS. The central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. That's it. Two things. But that is what controls your entire body. So your central nervous system really is your command center, your integration center. It's what's going to bring all the information in, process it to understand what's going on, and then send those signals back out again. You have to interpret your sensory info. Because you might see that glass of water, or you might see that pen, or you might see whatever. But you have to then realize what that is. The only way you know what that is by either having seen it before, so you've learned it, or using different context clues to try to figure out what that is. So for example, a lot of times if I say the word trumpet, people know what that means. But if I say the word cornet, you might be wondering, what is that? Well, I've showed a picture of it. A cornet looks very similar to a trumpet. So the idea here is you're trying to associate what you've seen in the past, what you've learned. So you're trying to take that information in the brain and understand it and process it. And then it's going to direct or dictate your motor response. In that first slide, we saw a glass of water. You're going to move your hand to grab the water and bring it back to drink. Well, that then is telling all the muscles of your arm, your shoulder, your torso, how to compensate and move to create that action. So you're controlling the sensory input, understanding, processing, and then sending the motor output to cause actions in response to the sensory inputs you received. But the way that leaves, the way that enters, everything that's coming into the brain and spinal cord, everything that's leaving the brain and spinal cord, so pretty much everything but the brain and spinal cord is the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral, going out. So all the nerves that enter into the brain and spinal cord, all the nerves that leave the brain and spinal cord, those are all peripheral nervous system. So we have all this sensory of the peripheral nervous system coming in. We have all this motor of the peripheral nervous system leaving. But now we're looking at, there's two different divisions of the peripheral nervous system, the PNS, peripheral nervous system. We have first up the afferent, or the sensory division. This is all the inputs, everything that's coming into the brain and spinal cord. You're going to have some of these what are called somatic fibers. Somatic fibers coming from your skin, your skeletal muscles, is coming in from things that are more voluntary control a lot of times. Things that you're moving, that you're adjusting. While the other side are going to be these visceral fibers. Now, the visceral fibers are things you're not really controlling. Think about your organs. So you're looking at stomach, intestines, heart, lungs. So your internal organs. So we have somatic and visceral fibers. They're based on what they're bringing information in from. But they're both bringing sensory inputs in. So that's the afferent, or the sensory division. The other side of the peripheral nervous system is the efferent, or motor division. One way to keep these straight is efferent starts with an E, exit, it leaves. So motor output is heading out of your central nervous system. So this efferent, exiting, brings information out or away. It's going to the muscles, going to glands, going to your skin. It's leaving the central nervous system. All right, let's split that up now. The motor division, or the efferent division, exit efferent, is split into two different divisions as well. We have the somatic nervous system. Now, the somatic is going to your skeletal muscles. You're going to your motor nerve fibers. It's all carrying away to conscious control. So you're aware of, hey, move arm, you're moving your arm. That would be the somatic nervous system. You're consciously aware of it, you're controlling it in this case. So you're considering this as a voluntary system. It's what you're aware of. Never saying, hold on, you can have reflexes. Or sure, you can move your knee, but then at the doctors, they can tap that, it moves on its own. Yes, but for the most part, that is a voluntary action. Those reflexes are kicking in to be a protective measure. So for this case, 99% of the time, it's a voluntary reaction. It's just that occasional reflex that's protecting your muscles, protecting your organs, protecting yourself, that will kick in. So the somatic nervous system, voluntary control, think muscles, joints, skin, things that you're aware of. The other part of this efferent or motor division is going to be the autonomic nervous system. Be careful, it's autonomic, not automatic. So the autonomic nervous system. It's also known as the ANS, autonomic nervous system. Now, this one is going to be more visceral motor fibers. It's still sending information away from the brain, away from the spinal cord. But now it's going down to smooth muscle, to cardiac muscle. That means it's involuntary. So your ANS, your autonomic nervous system, is really what's controlling most of your basic functions in your body that just happen. Think about blood pressure. You're looking at some heart rate here, breathing mechanism, digestive motility, enzymes for that matter. So all these things are occurring based on the autonomic nervous system. It's happening below your conscious level and unconscious aspect. But that autonomic nervous system is also split into two parts. If you notice, there's a lot of branching here, a lot of divisions. But the autonomic nervous system, first one up is the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system, think fight or flight, is meant to get the body ready to react to something. So for example, if you're out in the woods and all of a sudden you ran across a bear, well, what do? Your whole body gets ready to react. Heart rate goes up, breathing rate goes up, digestive motility goes down. You're not going to worry about digestion right now. Your hearing and eyesight get a little keener. Your senses are more aware. This is all sympathetic nervous system. It's getting your body ready to react. While the parasympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic is more rest and digest. Parasympathetic is more of a calming effect. Think about after you have a big meal. Your digestion will be working faster. Urinary system is filtering more. Your muscles are a little more relaxed. Your nervous system is a little bit more laid back. You might feel a little bit tired potentially even. You might want to sit around and relax. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. More rest and digest. Think more body homeostasis. Making sure everything's being taken care of. So both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic are divisions of the autonomic nervous system. All right, so let's kind of look at this little chart to kind of break things down so you can kind of see where they fall. Up top here, we have central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Those are the two main overarching themes here. Basically, you have nervous system. The nervous system then is central and peripheral nervous. That's it. But now, we'll take that peripheral nervous system, break it down into the sensory or the afferent division, and the motor or the efferent division. So both these divisions are part of the peripheral nervous system. Sensory, afferent comes in. Motor, efferent, goes out. All right, break down that motor division or the efferent division. You have the somatic nervous system. Think muscles, control, voluntary. And the autonomic nervous system. Think your organs, involuntary. So both somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system are part of the motor division, the efferent division. Then take that autonomic nervous system, break it down to sympathetic division. Sympathetic, fight or flight, your body's ready to react. And the parasympathetic division, rest and digest, your body's calming and relaxing. So both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic division are under the autonomic division. Then the autonomic division you can see here with the somatic division is a part of the motor division or the efferent. The motor division with the sensory division are part of the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system with the central nervous system is your nervous system in total. So a lot of different divisions and breakdowns as we start looking into what the nervous system actually is. So that's the breakdown. We'll have to go through more of those in the future lectures. But for now, get an idea of how those are all nestled together, which falls under what categories, which are voluntary, which are involuntary. How do they react?